Marcus Thompson adjusted his younger sister Zara's jacket as they walked through the gleaming corridors of the Mercedes Arena in downtown Atlanta. The 16-year-old boy had been looking forward to this basketball game for weeks, and seeing his 13-year-old sister's excited face made all the planning worthwhile. Their father had surprised them with VIP courtside tickets to watch the Hawks play against the Lakers, and the siblings couldn't contain their enthusiasm. The arena buzzed with energy as fans filled the seats. Marcus and Zara found their way to Section A, Row 1, seats 5 and 6. The leather chairs were positioned perfectly behind the team bench, offering an incredible view of the court. Zara pulled out her phone to take pictures, while Marcus studied the warm-up routines of the players they'd only seen on television before. "I can't believe we're actually here," Zara whispered, her eyes sparkling as she watched the Lakers' star player practice his three-point shots. "Dad really outdid himself this time." Marcus nodded, remembering how their father had casually handed them the tickets that morning. David Thompson rarely had time for surprises due to his demanding work schedule, but when he did, they were always memorable. The man worked incredibly long hours, often traveling for business, but he made sure his children knew they were his priority. As the siblings settled into their seats, Marcus noticed several arena staff members huddled near the entrance to their section. One of them, a tall man with graying hair wearing a supervisor's badge, kept glancing in their direction. Marcus felt a slight unease but dismissed it as game day nerves from the staff. The arena continued to fill up around them. Wealthy businessmen in expensive suits took their seats nearby, along with local celebrities and social media influencers. Marcus and Zara, dressed in their best casual clothes, felt slightly out of place among the crowd, but their excitement overshadowed any discomfort. 20 minutes before tip-off, the supervisor Marcus had noticed earlier approached their section. Behind him walked two security guards and a woman carrying a clipboard. The supervisor's face wore a stern expression as he made his way directly toward the Thompson siblings. "Excuse me," the supervisor said, his voice carrying an authoritative tone that immediately caught the attention of nearby spectators. "I'm going to need to see your tickets." Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out the two premium tickets, handing them over without hesitation. He assumed this was standard procedure for VIP seating areas. The supervisor examined the tickets carefully, turning them over and holding them up to the light. "These seats are reserved for season ticket holders," the supervisor announced loudly enough for the surrounding area to hear. "I'm going to need you two to come with me." Zara's face flushed with embarrassment as other fans turned to stare at them. "But those are our tickets," she said quietly, her voice barely audible above the arena's background noise. "Our dad gave them to us." The woman with the clipboard stepped forward. "Season ticket holders have complained about their seats being occupied," she explained with a condescending smile. "We have security footage showing you two entering this section without proper authorization." Marcus felt his stomach drop. The excitement he'd felt moments earlier transformed into confusion and humiliation. "There must be some mistake," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "These tickets were purchased legitimately. We didn't sneak in anywhere." The supervisor shook his head dismissively. "Look, kids, I don't know how you got these tickets, but we've had problems with counterfeit tickets lately. We're going to need you to move to the general admissions section while we verify these are authentic." The security guards stepped closer, their presence making it clear that this wasn't a request but a demand. Other VIP section patrons watched the scene unfold, some with curious expressions, others with obvious disapproval. Marcus heard whispered conversations around them, catching phrases like "probably can't afford these seats anyway," and knew something looked off. Zara's eyes began to fill with tears, but she blinked them back rapidly. She'd been so excited about the game, and now they were being treated like criminals in front of hundreds of people. Marcus put a protective arm around his sister's shoulders, feeling his own anger beginning to build. "We're not moving anywhere until you properly verify these tickets," Marcus said firmly, surprising himself with his confident tone, "and we're not causing any disturbance. We're sitting quietly in our assigned seats." The supervisor's expression hardened. "Son, you can either come with us voluntarily, or we can escort you out of the arena entirely. Your choice." The threat hung in the air like a dark cloud. Marcus realized they were being profiled, judged not by their behavior or the legitimacy of their tickets, but by their appearance and age. The injustice of the situation made his chest tight with frustration. "Can we at least call our father?" Zara asked, her voice stronger now despite her obvious distress. "He bought these tickets. He can explain everything." The woman with the clipboard laughed dismissively. "Honey, every kid caught sneaking into premium seats claims their parents bought the tickets. We hear that story 10 times a game." Marcus pulled out his phone, ignoring the supervisor's impatient sighing. "I'm calling our dad right now. He'll clear this up immediately." The supervisor rolled his eyes. "Make it quick. But you're still moving to general admission while this gets sorted out. We can't have unauthorized people in the VIP section during the game." As Marcus scrolled through his contacts to find his father's number, he noticed more arena staff gathering nearby. Word of the situation was clearly spreading through their radio system. The incident was becoming a spectacle, drawing attention from fans throughout their section. Zara squeezed her brother's arm. "Just call Dad," she whispered. "He'll fix this." Marcus found his father's contact information and pressed the call button. The phone rang once before a familiar voice answered on the other end. What happened next would change everything for the arena staff who had so confidently assumed they were dealing with 2 teenagers who didn't belong in premium seating. The conversation that followed would expose not just a case of racial profiling, but a complete failure of customer service that reached the highest levels of the organization. The supervisor, security guards, and administrative staff who had approached the Thompson siblings with such certainty were about to discover they had made a catastrophic error in judgment. Marcus held the phone to his ear, unaware that his father was currently in a board meeting with the very executives who controlled major sponsorship deals with the arena. The call he was about to make would trigger a chain of events that would result in immediate consequences for everyone involved in the discriminatory treatment of him and his sister. The game was about to begin, but the real action was just getting started off the court. David Thompson was sitting in the executive conference room on the 42nd floor of the Phoenix Financial Tower when his phone buzzed. The CEO of Thompson Industries glanced at the caller ID and saw his son's name. He normally wouldn't answer during a board meeting, but something about the timing felt urgent. The meeting was wrapping up anyway, and he'd been discussing a major sponsorship renewal with the Mercedes Arena management team who were seated directly across from him. "Excuse me for just one moment," David said to the room full of executives. "This is my son." He answered the call with a warm tone. "Hey Marcus, everything okay? How's the game?" The voice that came through the phone was tense and upset. "Dad, we need your help. The arena staff is trying to kick us out of our seats. They're saying our tickets are fake and that we snuck into the VIP section." David's expression immediately shifted from warm to concerned. The Mercedes Arena executives in the meeting room noticed the change but continued their quiet side conversations. "What do you mean they're trying to kick you out? You have legitimate tickets." "I know that, and you know that, but they don't believe us," Marcus explained, his voice carrying the strain of the situation. "They want us to move to general admission while they verify our tickets. There's a supervisor here with security guards, and they're treating us like we're criminals." The temperature in David's voice dropped noticeably. "Put the supervisor on the phone." "Right now?" Marcus walked over to the supervisor, who had been checking his watch impatiently. "My father wants to speak with you," he said. Holding out his phone, the supervisor took the phone with a dismissive attitude. "Sir, this is James Fletcher, VIP Services Supervisor. Your son and daughter are sitting in seats that belong to our season ticket holders. We're going to need them to relocate while we verify their tickets." David's voice came through the phone speaker loud enough for nearby fans to hear. "Mr. Fletcher, those tickets were purchased directly through your premium sales department last week. I have the confirmation email and credit card receipt. My children are sitting exactly where they're supposed to be sitting." Fletcher's tone remained unconvinced. "Sir, we deal with ticket fraud regularly. We need to follow our security protocols. Your children can watch the game from general admission while this gets sorted out. What's your full name and position? David asked, his voice taking on a sharp business tone that his employees recognized as dangerous. James Fletcher. VIP Services Supervisor, Mercedes Arena, Fletcher replied. Clearly annoyed by the questions, David was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke again, his voice carried an authority that made everyone in the conference room stop their conversations. Mr. Fletcher, are you aware that Thompson Industries is currently the largest corporate sponsor of this arena? Fletcher paused, suddenly less confident. I'm sorry, what company did you say? Thompson Industries. We hold the naming rights to the VIP club level, sponsor the executive suites, and have a $15 million annual partnership with this facility, David continued, his voice remaining calm but deadly serious. Are you also aware that I'm currently in a meeting with your executive team discussing the renewal of that sponsorship? The color began to drain from Fletcher's face as the implications of David's words started to sink in. Around the arena, other staff members who had been watching the situation began to look nervous. The woman with the clipboard stepped closer to Fletcher, trying to hear the conversation. Furthermore, David continued, are you aware that treating customers based on their race or age, rather than the legitimacy of their tickets, constitutes discrimination and grounds for immediate termination? Fletcher's hand began to shake slightly as he held the phone. Sir, We weren't discriminating. We were following standard procedures. Standard procedures would involve scanning the tickets with your electronic system before making accusations, David replied. Standard procedures would involve treating all customers with respect regardless of their appearance. Did you scan my children's tickets? Fletcher looked around frantically, realizing he had never actually used the ticket scanner to verify the ticket's authenticity. We were about to... No, you weren't. You made assumptions based on my children's age and race, and now you're trying to cover your tracks. David's voice cut through Fletcher's excuse. Let me be very clear about what's going to happen next. You're going to apologize to my children immediately. You're going to escort them back to their seats with the same respect you'd show any other VIP customer. And then you're going to call your general manager and explain why Thompson Industries CEO had to personally intervene because of your discriminatory behavior. The arena around Fletcher seemed to grow quieter as more people sensed the gravity of the situation. Fans in nearby seats had stopped watching the pre-game warm-ups and were focused entirely on the unfolding drama. Social media phones began recording the interaction as word spread through the VIP section. I need to speak with your general manager immediately, David continued. Transfer this call to him right now. Fletcher's supervisor voice was gone, replaced by panic. Sir, he's not available right now. The game is starting, Then get him available. You have exactly 5 minutes to have him on this phone. Or I'm walking down to that arena myself, and trust me, you don't want that level of attention, David stated firmly. In the meantime, my children better be sitting comfortably in their assigned seats, being treated like the valued customers they are. Fletcher looked at Marcus and Zara, who had been watching the entire interaction with growing amazement. Their father's voice had transformed from concerned parent to powerful business executive in a matter of minutes. The supervisor, who had been so confident in his authority just moments earlier, was now scrambling to undo his mistakes. Kids, please return to your seats, Fletcher said weakly. His earlier commanding presence completely evaporated. There seems to have been a misunderstanding. Marcus took back his phone as Fletcher stumbled away to make urgent calls. Dad, what just happened? David's voice returned to its warm, fatherly tone. You're about to learn that respect and proper treatment aren't favors people give you. They're rights you deserve regardless of your age or skin color. Sit down, enjoy the game, and let me handle the rest. As the Thompson siblings returned to their seats, they noticed the entire dynamic of their section had shifted. Staff members who had been part of the problem were now approaching with nervous smiles, offering complimentary snacks and drinks. Other VIP patrons who had watched the confrontation were looking at Marcus and Zara with newfound respect and curiosity. The woman with the clipboard approached hesitantly. Is there anything we can get for you? Refreshments? Programs? Zara looked at her brother, then back at the staff member. We just want to watch the basketball game we came here to see, she said with dignity beyond her years. Meanwhile, Fletcher was frantically trying to reach the general manager while simultaneously realizing that his career at the Mercedes Arena was likely over. The security guards who had flanked him earlier were now conspicuously absent, having quickly distanced themselves from the situation. Once they understood its severity. In the executive conference room across town, David was explaining to the Mercedes Arena executives why their sponsorship renewal meeting would need to be postponed while they addressed a serious customer service failure involving his children. The executives' faces showed a mixture of horror and panic as they realized the magnitude of their staff's error. The basketball game was about to begin, but the real action was happening in corporate offices and administrative areas throughout the arena, where people were scrambling to contain a situation that was rapidly spiraling beyond their control. The Thompson siblings sat in their rightful seats, finally able to enjoy the game they'd been looking forward to, unaware that their father's phone call was triggering a complete overhaul of arena policies and personnel. Within 30 minutes of David Thompson's phone call, the Mercedes Arena was buzzing with activity that had nothing to do with basketball. General Manager Robert Chung had been pulled from his luxury suite and was now in his office conducting an emergency meeting with his entire customer service leadership team. The gravity of the situation became clear when he learned that Thompson Industries wasn't just any corporate sponsor, but the arena's largest single revenue source. Marcus and Zara were finally enjoying the game they'd come to see. But their peaceful viewing was interrupted by a steady stream of arena executives apologizing and offering compensations. The woman with the clipboard, who had introduced herself as Sarah Martinez, Assistant Customer Service Manager, approached their seats during the first quarter timeout. "Mr. and Miss Thompson," she said carefully, "I want to personally apologize for the treatment you received tonight. We've launched an immediate investigation into this incident." Marcus looked up from the game program he'd been reading. "We just want to watch the game without being bothered anymore." "Of course," Martinez replied quickly. "But I wanted you to know that we're taking this very seriously. Would it be possible to speak with your father again? Mr. Chen would like to discuss this situation directly with him." Zara shook her head firmly. "Our dad is busy with work. He shouldn't have to fix problems that never should have happened in the first place." The truth was, David Thompson was no longer in his business meeting. He had excused himself and was currently driving toward the arena with a level of determination that worried his business partners. His assistant had already begun preparing legal documentation regarding the discrimination incident, and his public relations team was crafting statements in case the situation became public. Fletcher, meanwhile, was cleaning out his office under the supervision of security. The speed of his termination had shocked even him. Chun had made it clear that Fletcher's employment was ended effective immediately, not just because of the incident with the Thompson children, but because his response to learning about their father's identity showed he understood discrimination was wrong only when it affected powerful people. 20 years I've worked here," Fletcher muttered to himself as he packed his personal items. The security guard remained silent, having been instructed not to engage in conversation. Fletcher's termination letter cited failure to follow customer service protocols, discriminatory behavior, and conduct detrimental to arena operations. The two security guards who had flanked Fletcher during the initial confrontation were currently in separate meetings with human resources. Their involvement was being reviewed, though early indications suggested they might receive suspensions rather than termination since they had followed orders rather than initiated the discriminatory actions. Back in the arena, word of the incident was spreading through social media. Several fans had recorded portions of the confrontation, and the videos were beginning to circulate with captions like "Arena staff profiles black teens, gets owned by their CEO dad." The arena's social media team was monitoring the situation closely, prepared to implement damage control if the story gained traction. During halftime, David Thompson arrived at the arena. He didn't announce his presence dramatically or demand special attention. Instead, he quietly made his way to the VIP section where his children were enjoying nachos and discussing the Lakers' surprising first-half performance. "Dad." Zara jumped up to hug him. "You didn't have to come here." David embraced both his children before sitting down beside them. "Yes, I did. Some things are more important than business meetings." Marcus studied his father's expression. "Are people going to get in trouble because of what happened to us?" David considered his answer carefully. "Son, people are going to face consequences for their actions. That's different from getting in trouble because of you. You two did nothing wrong. The adults who treated you poorly made their own choices." A few seats away, other VIP patrons were stealing glances at the Thompson family, clearly curious about the evening's events. Some had pieced together that David was the powerful business executive they'd heard about through whispered conversations and staff gossip. Robert Chion approached the Thompson family during the third quarter, accompanied by two other executives. He was visibly nervous as he introduced himself. "Mr. Thompson, I'm Robert Chung, General Manager. I want to personally apologize for tonight's incident and assure you that we've taken immediate action." David stood to shake Chen's hand, maintaining his composed business demeanor. "Mr. Chen, I appreciate you coming to speak with us. But I want to be clear about something. This isn't about Thompson Industries sponsorship money. This is about basic human decency and equal treatment for all customers." Chen nodded earnestly. "Absolutely, sir. We've terminated Mr. Fletcher's employment, and we're implementing mandatory customer service retraining for all staff members. We're also revising our ticket verification procedures to ensure incidents like this don't happen again." "Good," David replied. "But I want you to understand something else. If my children had been anyone else's children, if they'd had no connection to wealth or power, that treatment would have been just as wrong. Your staff's behavior tonight revealed systemic problems that go beyond one supervisor." The executives exchanged uncomfortable glances, realizing that David was demanding more than just personal satisfaction. He was pushing for genuine organizational change. Zara looked up from the game. "Can we talk about this later? The Lakers are making a comeback, and I don't want to miss it." The adults laughed, and the tension in the conversation eased slightly. Chun and his team excused themselves, promising to follow up with David the next week about comprehensive policy changes. As the game entered its final minutes, Marcus reflected on the evening's events. "Dad, do you think what happened tonight will actually change anything?" David considered the question while watching his daughter cheer for a particularly impressive slam dunk. "Change comes slowly, son. But sometimes it takes dramatic incidents to force organizations to confront their blind spots. At minimum, the staff members who work here will think twice before treating other young people the way you were treated tonight. The Hawks won the game in overtime," providing an exciting conclusion to what had been an emotionally draining evening. As the Thompson family prepared to leave, they noticed that the arena staff's treatment of them had completely transformed. Staff members who wouldn't have given them a second glance earlier were now overly attentive, offering assistance and expressing hopes that they'd enjoyed the game. The drive home was quiet, with both teenagers processing the evening's events. They had learned important lessons about discrimination, power dynamics, and standing up for themselves, but they had also seen how quickly systemic problems could be addressed when the right pressure was applied. 3 weeks later, the Mercedes Arena implemented new customer service protocols that required electronic ticket verification before any seating disputes could be initiated. Fletcher's replacement received extensive training in bias recognition and cultural sensitivity. The arena also began partnering with local community organizations to provide basketball game experiences for underprivileged youth, an initiative personally championed by David Thompson. Marcus and Zara returned to the arena several more times that season, always receiving impeccable service. But more importantly, they noticed that other young fans, particularly those from minority backgrounds, seemed to be treated with the same respect and courtesy they now received. The incident that had begun with discrimination and embarrassment had ultimately created positive change that extended far beyond their own experience. The story of their night at the Mercedes Arena became family legend, a reminder that standing up against injustice, even in uncomfortable situations, could lead to meaningful change. For David Thompson, it reinforced his belief that true success meant using influence responsibly to create opportunities and fairness for others. Not just personal advantage, the arena staff learned that assumptions based on appearance could have career-ending consequences, but more importantly, they learned that every customer deserved dignity and respect regardless of their perceived status or background. The Thompson family's experience had transformed from a night of discrimination into a catalyst for positive, organizational change that would benefit countless future visitors to the arena.